and the tweets ready. You love the twats and the tweets. I actually canceled my premium X.
Okay. Yeah, I don't get any traction on there, so I probably should cancel it too.
Yeah, it's just giving Elon money that I don't want to give him. And away we go. There we are. Hello, beautiful YouTube stock twits. There we go. Hey, we did a podcast. Hey, we're doing a podcast. Come on by and say something. QQQ, SPY, Bitcoin.
Are you up to speed with all of these like I guess we can wait till the show. I had some questions for you about the
Well,
crypto.
I mean, there's a flavor for everyone's desire, right?
Yeah, that's
So
why.
it's hard to be up on all of them. You just kind of got to watch and see what's running and what has traction.
Were you I don't know, I guess I've never even asked how old you are. Were you around investing during the tech boom?
No,
No.
I was old enough to invest, but I wasn't investing because I didn't understand the need of it.
Sure, sure.
And a general lack of money when you're in your teens and 20s, right? So that doesn't
Yeah.
help either.
There we go. We're fired up. We're ready to go. I love that. That's a whole story in of itself. Fired up, ready to go. I'll tell that story another time. But we're not talking politics today. We're talking podcast on the markets. Sorry for missing last week, everybody. I got my arm brace off, so I'm a free man. Look at this. Full motion. Woo! It's beautiful. And GP's got internet, so we're all here. Hi, gentlemen.
What's
Okay,
up?
possible.
Last week was a real shitter, huh? I mean,
And the need of it.
Monday was pretty impressive, but other than that, it was a real shitter.
I thought it was
Yeah,
fantastic.
you
Yeah,
did.
I kind of
Oh,
did too.
please indulge.
I think you saw rotation, right? I think that's the as we've talked about so many times, rotation is the lifeblood of the markets. And in the summer, the only thing they wanted to buy were chips, and the only thing they wanted to sell was everything else.
Oh, they flushed the poopy out of the chips, didn't they?
Yeah, and so now you're in the reverse chip trade, which is all the things that got dispersed over the summer. Not all of them, but a lot of them, especially with the base breakouts, are now shining. So if you're wrongly positioned thinking Nvidia is going to moon, then yes, last week was rough. But if you were in, I don't know, a firm, let's say, for example, or Square or Upstart or Coin or things that are actually working, then
Yeah.
you're not in a bad position, right? So it's good to recognize if you're a long-term investor, this is not a conversation of what to do and how to allocate, but this is the short-term trend, which is there's dispersion going on in the mega caps and the chips, and that money is rotating into other names. And it's not all mega caps either, because some of the mega caps are related to the consumer side of AI. And my theory right now, or thesis right now, is that consumer AI is getting money rotated into from hardware AI, which is why chips have been struggling. And that may change in a month or so. But right now, that seems to be the theme. So you can see it in obviously Tesla, the stock that we all love to hate, or hate to love, either one, whichever one. You're seeing it in Apple; it's holding up better than the other
I
names. And
hate to hate it, honestly. I hate to hate it.
yeah, if it wasn't for Elon, the stock would be just a lot more loved, right? And he's bipolar, or sorry, not bipolar. He's on both sides of the either you love him or you hate him, right? And um, not even that
He's a
conversation. But it's
divisive
just,
individual, maybe.
yeah, but I think it's just you're seeing the rotation that everyone's been expecting for a really long time, and you're finally seeing the rotation, and no one really believes it, right? There's a general, oh look, the markets are dying because chips are dying, yet there's a lot of strength underneath,
Yeah,
right?
we're having like the reverse conversation from like 2023 where everyone was talking about it was only mag,
Yeah,
and now it's like we're having like the reverse of like the opposite of that. I feel like.
Well, this is a bit of the conversation we had a month ago with Cookie, right? Like, I mean, we were kind of prepping for that in a lot of ways, with things going just like you said, GP, into a more consumer focused way as opposed to a more enterprise way, which has been what the last 18 months have been or 2 years have been, right?
absolutely. And you see it in the leader, right? So the two like AI leaders, I won't say market leaders because I still think Netflix is the bull market leader, and it's still, if you're looking at Netflix, it doesn't give a shit about your which is also a beneficiary of consumer AI, by the way.
Yeah.
That's not high.
It's just crushing, right? Oh,
Netflix had a
I
good week
can't
last week,
I
too.
can't buffer the Tyson fight. Let me short it. You idiots.
Yeah.
16 million viewers on a streaming platform live is not a shortable offense. That is a phenomenal number, right?
Yeah, I know.
If you're
Those
comparing,
are good problems to have
yes.
because you can fix the bandwidth issue. You
And
know,
if you're comparing those
on that
numbers
note,
to, sorry,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. I was just saying
On
that the numbers to Super Bowl, largest Super Bowl ever, which is nationally broadcasted on free antenna, is 125 million. And they did this for a Mike Tyson fight who's 58 years old. They did it for 60 million. So the opportunities there are endless.
The only point that I was going to make regarding the streaming issues, GP, is I mean we've become accustomed to Thursday Night Football on Amazon Prime. Well, the first week or two of NFL football on Amazon Prime every week, there were some latency issues. It wasn't as smooth sailing as everyone thought. So yeah, it's turned out great. Thursday Night Football. I mean, I love watching it on Prime. I think they do a great job. But those
Their
first
analysis,
those,
their
those
analysis.
first few, like, there's a lot that you're still figuring out from going to just streaming something on demand to people than streaming a live sports event. And there's a lot more that goes into it. So I think we have a very myopic culture where we only see what's right before our very eyes most of the time and don't zoom out or think of what has happened in the more recent past. That's all.
Or you're holding a bunch of puts and you want Netflix to die. So
Oh,
well, I guess yeah, so you're seeing rotation, right? So what last week on how bad the indices looked, if you looked at stocks that weren't major components of the indices, they held up really, really freaking well, right?
Yeah.
And across the board, you're just
except for old
seeing,
Pfizer. Woo!
yeah. Well, XBI got smoked, right? And there's definitely some of that stuff that's part of the presidential trades or whatnot. But yeah, it's interesting to see, right? Like if we quickly go through some of the chip names, right? Let's start with Lam Research, LRCX. Like it broke down based, aka distributed, and then is now breaking down again. The question is, will any of this stuff follow through? And that's what the NVIDIA earnings is going to be showing us, right? Is this the false breakdown, or is it the distributive breakdown where it goes lower? And if you where I'm focusing is if you're looking at Microsoft, which is actually breaking down on the monthly time frame, which was the leader of the AI revolution along with NVIDIA. I would say my bias is that these are all going to break down. Maybe they keep NVIDIA flat and maybe it breaks down next earnings, but it all looks like semi-topping patterns here, right?
You think if it starts to break down, it'll be like in a violent fashion or more kind of like a choppy kind of like grind?
It's going to be similar to the summer, right? So let's talk about Affirm, right? Affirm in the summer from June to the August 5th lows lost 50% on not a lot of volume, right? If you go to the weekly, very, very little volume. It was just in a dispersion trade. It wasn't one that was ready for prime time because chips were ready for the prime time at that point. This, for some reason, went all the way to 21 bucks, right? From 40 something. And it was part of the trade. There was nothing you can do. Everything was being shorted at every kind of resistance point, and it just went down. And then boom, August 5th happened, and you saw a change right across the board. And what's a firm done since then? Only 200 and something percent. So I don't know how fast or how furious the dispersion is. My opinion is that this dispersion lasts into end of year, right? And why I say that for a number of reasons is because by the midpoint of December-ish, people are starting to position for the upcoming year, right? So the rotation that's been going on since August starts to unwind a bit into that kind of what do I see for 2025 trade? And we'll start to see evidence of that over the next few weeks on where that rotation for 2025 could potentially come into.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I feel like mag and the biotech sector in general, I think those two in particular are the most susceptible to just the current uncertainty out there. I think those will all get kind of sorted out, and I think it'll all get sorted out. As far as like the mag names, like let's say they all start to break down, because I feel like Apple and Amazon will probably come out of it less scathed than, for instance, like Google, Meta, and Microsoft, just because I feel like Musk has kind of a bone to pick with them more so than Apple and Amazon. That's why I'm kind of like thinking like it's going to be a more of like a grind, like you're talking, as opposed to like, I don't know, something kind of violent. And with like the biotech stuff, it's just a matter of, again, kind of getting the uncertainty out of the way. Like we don't really know how RFK is going to necessarily come in and like, I don't know, ruffle feathers and how things are going to go. Like the reality is, in my opinion, the Moderna and the Pfizer are going to be the sacrificial lambs for the rest of the biotech sector. So like he can't save everyone's health by just fixing the ingredients that they put in our food. Like we're still going to need the Eli Lilly's, the various like stuff. So I don't see what, do you understand what I'm saying?
I do. And I
Like,
think RFK is going to be a bunch of nonsense and noise, right?
yeah,
So
I agree. Like I
I
think it's going to
think
be a massive buying opportunity as opposed to like some type of like, I don't know. That's just kind of how that's kind of how I'm looking at it.
go ahead, Ben.
So
I see you shaking your head.
like
No, Nick, you had finish your thought.
like with Eli Lilly, for instance, right? Like it was trading at 950 bucks a share. It's down to 700. Like if I got an opportunity for that thing to come into like the 4-year moving average on the monthly, like let's just say down to 600, dude, fuck, I'm stepping in. I mean, obviously I want to I want to see a bottoming pattern. I'm not going to just like throw a dart out there.
Yeah.
I'm trying to catch a flying knife, but I think that we as a population are too far down an unhealthy hole or like a path that there's no way we can just cold turkey our way out of this. So like this is going to provide a massive buying opportunity for anything within the XBI IBB that either we're looking to get involved in or have not got involved in. Just kind of, and same thing with the mag names too. Like, I think as stock pickers, or for the stock pickers and traders out there per se, like we'd probably prefer to see the mag names kind of just step aside, move sideways, and let this new revolution and the new like true market leaders come in. To your point, like what held up incredibly well last week, it was all of the fintech names. Like
Yeah.
if all you're doing is following the relative
I mean, look
strength,
at SoFi.
yeah, like if if we just follow the money and like again follow the relative strength to like, and last week was a great example. Like if we don't get weeks like last week or even corrective periods, we're not going to be able to see where the relative strength lies. Like no matter what take you have on any bit of the outside of the market spectrum, we're moving into an era of we're going to push to an era of like radical transparency, because like the amount of faith that's being lost in the system is just immeasurable. So like fintech has to be one of the places that we are focused. And again, my opinion, I'm fintech, the metaverse, look at Roblox, look at EA Sports, like video gaming, DraftKings, cybersecurity, obviously. Like I think your S will went stage 2, or did it? I can't even remember what S did now, but
No,
like
it's not stage 2 yet.
it's getting dang close. I mean, you might as well set an alert at like 30, and once it rips 30, it's gone.
Yeah, no, I like it. I don't disagree with you about any of the cybersecurity and fintech names. Um, you know, I'm shaking my head because you guys have known me well enough. At heart, I'm a forever bull, right? I'm a perma bull. It's always going to move up and to the right, and I don't think that we're going away from up and to the right. I'm not saying we're going to fall into a depression. I'm not saying that the bull market and the greatness of America will not continue. That I'm just going to preface this off the rip right here. But I'm going to believe these clowns when they tell me that they're going to do something. When they say that there's going to be a 20% tariff on everything that comes into this country, that is going to be felt somewhere. And it's going to be felt also in stock and holdings prices. I let a few people know at the beginning of last week, or at the end of the week before rather. I'm selling half of everything I own. I've already begun trimming a lot of my holdings. And why is that? Is it that I don't believe that we're not going up and to the right? No, I believe we're in for some pain. Elon himself said there's going to be a period of pain, and I'm going to believe them when they tell me this stuff. So I'm going to do what extremely wealthy people do when we go through economic periods that are less than bullish. I'm going to be sitting on some dry powder. And when things get low enough, I'm going to start buying them. And that's how true wealth gets made at the end of the day. So I'm going to play the game that way. And I'm good with cutting back on some SoFi. I'm good with cutting back on some Tesla. I'm good with cutting back on some Roblox. I'm good at cutting back on some Cloudflare. I'm good at cutting back on some AMD. I'm good on cutting. I have major profits in all those names. That doesn't mean that I'm selling out of every single position, but I'm selling out of a lot of positions and I'm selling half of other things. So
Yeah.
I want to be sitting on cash and I'm going to be waiting to buy. And I'm not going to be a miserable bear. I want it to be lower. Oh, I wish I'd held. Um, I can see what it is. And I forgot which analyst it was who was saying this is like, buy the election, sell the inauguration. So I figure I've got a little more than a month and a half to get sold what I think can get sold. So let it run up. I mean, you guys know that I've had pretty significant positions in crypto. You think I'm holding every shit coin that I've ever owned? Nope. I'm converting that into Bitcoin or Ethereum, or I'm selling it and waiting on better prices to buy Bitcoin and Ethereum. And I'm just biding my time. There's no way that I'm going to feel like this is any type of risk on environment. We've got a clown show um, in charge for the next 4 years. And I know I said we weren't going to talk political, but that goes into making my money. And until one of us are part of the PayPal mafia, we're retail, and we have to do what we have to do to survive in that time period.
Yeah, I feel you. So you're selling into this basically like, let's say
I'm
we
selling every
NFL's
rip. I
rally.
sold the piss out of everything last Monday when it was going through the ceiling. I sold probably a third of my Tesla at 350. Um, and I don't regret it. I've been trying to lighten Tesla for a minute. I sold some SOFI. I did well on buying SOFI when it dipped lower, and it got to $14. So I was like, all right, I doubled my money. Why am I holding on to something? These hoes don't love you, GP, right? At the end of the day, it's to grow my capital, to have more money to do other things with than just say I'm married to a stock for no good reason.
Yeah, but counterpoint to that is last time Trump won the presidency, the markets were up 60% over 4 years. So um, I'm not saying it can't dip. I'm not saying it can't get worse. I'm not saying any of that stuff.
We
I
didn't we
think
didn't, we didn't
that's
have 20% tariffs on everything.
yeah. Like I said, I'm not saying it can't get worse. I think for me, I'm actively watching, so I will see things that concern me. Obviously, we've talked about Microsoft being the canary in the coal mine. It's breaking down on the monthly, largest time frame breakdown is something to not push aside, right? Like I get that it's a conversation. Um, right now I'm in the camp that it's just dispersion and rotation, and will come early December, a couple weeks from now, I will reassess because I think it's possibility that it can spread throughout, or it could just be isolated rotation. And so that's what I'm watching for at the moment. And I hear you. Financials are going through the roof. Regionals are going through the roof. Yet IWM still hasn't taken out all-time highs, right?
Nope.
And then Microsoft obviously is breaking down. NVIDIA has been holding up, sure. I don't know how or why or what reason, because their third largest customer has been taking a shit nonstop since March. And yes, that the beneficiary should be Dell, right? For that. Yet Dell looks like a head and shoulders on the weekly, and Lam Research is breaking down. ASML guided lower. Like it's also it's being sold on every pop. This is very indicative of what they were doing to names like Square, Roku. What are all the top? Zoom, Peloton, all through 2021 and 2022, where they were sorry, all through 2021, where every pop was being sold, and then 2022 was the distributive breakdown of all those names, right? So I understand that it's a possibility that chips are the canary in the coal mine here, so to speak. But I want to see it first, at least on a consecutive week over week basis. And so that's why I hear you. I'm just not in that camp yet. It's possible that it definitely, they're the heaviest weighted names in these indices. So it can definitely bring things down.
It's not going to happen overnight. And, the the idiom that the analyst said was buy the election, sell the inauguration. Like that doesn't mean that things can't go up and things won't go up. I just want to have enough free cash to be able to make better investment choices in this new world. That's all.
Yeah, absolutely. I hear the concern. So
Speaking of IWM, I'm concerned about our IWM trade. I mean, I sold around 53 on the TNA here. Once it broke down from last week, I was glad to watch it go further. I don't necessarily think small caps are going to um, be as prosperous as maybe what we once uh, were being hypothetical about in previous episodes. And that's because these tariffs are going to hurt them more than it's going to hurt anyone else. Because when you have to go buy things and the consumer at the end of the day is footing the bill, when you have to go buy things, you're more likely to buy where you're going to get the best price when things are getting squeezed. And small businesses are not usually going to give you the best pricing power.
Yep. That makes sense. I just think they'll walk back the tariffs conversation rather quickly.
Well,
Yeah,
if they do, then it's going to, going to the moon. But
Yeah.
that's yet to be seen. I'm going to believe them when they tell me that.
Yeah, absolutely. I just sorry. Pendulum swing both ways, right? So
Why would
during the
you
Biden
believe
administration,
anything that they say?
sorry, what's that?
Back to back, like why would you believe anything that they say?
That's a great question, because when it comes to their money, they're usually not fucking around. Other people's health, they'll lie to you about that, but when it comes to the money, they're not going to fuck around.
Yeah. So if you start seeing Elon selling his Tesla shares again, it's time to get the fuck out of the markets. That's the reality, right?
And
Because
me selling Tesla. I mean, Tesla very well could be the winner. Could be one of the winners out of this cohort of stocks. But right now, I profited what I thought was a healthy amount on about a third of my shares, and I'm okay with letting that go to free up cash. So it's not like I got rid of everything that I own Tesla.
I'm not disagreeing with you taking money off the table by any means. I just because I think that's the smart way to do it. Like that's just managing your money. But just the way that you proposed it made it sound as if like I don't know. The way that you said it, I like it's all good. I don't
Well,
know.
I'm concerned about a yield curve reinversion too. Then that would be a double dip recession. I mean, technically, we were in a recession until they changed the definition of recession. If you guys remember that conversation from
Yeah.
months ago, right? So if the yield curve reinverts, which it's pretty close to doing that, the 2 is going crazy compared to the 10. That might be a little more problematic than the yield curve inverting the first time. So that's something I'm keeping an eye on, and I never thought I would probably admit to that on our podcast, but I'm paying attention to the 2 and 10.
I don't. I it doesn't matter who they're talking about and who's talking on the TV. I don't believe a fucking word of it. So that's all I'm saying is like I don't. I don't know. I just don't believe it.
yes, to your point, RFK was eating McDonald's on Air Force One. So
Yeah, exactly.
this guy's going to get rid of all artificial food, but he's
Yeah.
eating McDonald's like it's normal food. Like that's actually food.
So I was saying like going into the election, like I was like, I don't think like I was fucking loaded to the gills long because I didn't think it mattered one bit who won the election. The trajectory that we're on and where we're going, I don't think it. I don't know. Whatever.
I feel you. I'm I'm happy to be wrong. I still have 50% of my money at work, or I still will have more than 50% of my money at work. So I'm happy to be wrong. I'm happy to pick some new names to buy. It's not a
I mean,
big deal. I'm just telling you what I'm doing and why I'm concerned about it.
Sure. Yeah, I got you. I mean, it's no different than what I do. It's just following the relative strength.
Yeah, so I think you're talking more about your investments, Ben, and Nick, you're talking about your trading strategy. So I think that's the difference here, right? You're not a committed party to holding things longer than maybe, I think at probably your most is what, 6 months or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's easier to be in and out if that's your strategy, but if your strategy is to be an investor for the long term, then you got to find your right points for exit so you can re-enter when it gets cheaper. Otherwise, unless you are making millions of dollars a year and you can keep averaging down all the way through, finite money only goes up a finite amount, right? So like if you start with 100,000 and you never change it and it goes up 20%, and then I mean it's 20x and you're at 2 million, but you never sell and it goes back down to 100,000, you're back to exactly where you started, right? So
Yeah.
and you can, look at the owners of BlackBerry from back in the day. They've round tripped and then some, right? So if you said all my net worth is in BlackBerry and you didn't take any bit off the table,
You're fucked.
Have you seen that movie, by the way?
I have. But that movie was exactly what was happening in real time because we were like, dude, the iPhone's awesome. This is thing, and BlackBerry's like, here's a tactical keyboard. You're like, what?
Yeah.
You can push a haptic keyboard. Sorry. You can push to touch. And you're like, dude, you guys are missing the point. And they're like, oh no, we're the most secure. You're like, no one gives a fuck about security. Aren't you seeing all these corporations adopting the iPhone? If they cared about the most secure, then they would be adopting the Black. Anyway, it was hilarious watching what we were experiencing in the markets at the time.
Yeah. RIM was one of the stocks I kind of learned to day trade on. It was like RIM, Apple. There was a couple of others. God, I can't remember, but yeah, it brought back a lot of memories.
RIM was my first ever investment.
Oh, nice.
And I bought it for 20. It went to, I think, 360.
Yeah.
It was not like I was like 18, right? Or 19.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, well, it's going to the moon. I didn't know shit, right? So, but my brother was a bit older. He's like, you got to take some off. So I took some off. And then I watched, I took off about 2/3, 1/3 on the way up and another third on the way down. And then I was just holding a third, just watching it degrade over time. And then I got out. But yeah, it was my first ever investment.
Dude.
This is a good conversation. My first ever investment is I invested in a fund through my bank, USAA, and it was a precious metals fund. And GP, you know what it did?
Nothing.
Doubled my fucking money.
Doubled it. Nice.
Doubled my $1,500. I felt like I was doing something.
Yeah. And
Nick,
speaking
what about
of like,
you?
God, mine. I think the ticker now, I actually still own it, I think it's HHSE.
I've heard that. Why is that?
Hanover House?
Dude, it's changed ticker symbols like 7 times.
This can't be it.
Dude, I'm not even kidding you. Like I was with a buddy that a roommate of mine that was living with me. Kind of got me
You
into.
see the price of it right now?
Yeah.
0.009 of a cent.
I think I bought this at like 7 cents or something.
Kind of looks like a buy right now.
I mean, sometimes I have dreams about like this is like my lottery ticket because I own like 10,000 shares or some shit. I don't even remember. I don't even know. It's in my.
I'm sure it's reverse split.
That got converted over like 7 times. It's got traded to Schwab to whatever it is now, but
media production and distribution company which engages in book publishing, feature film, and video production and distribution of these films. All right, that's not for me, but congratulations.
Nah, I mean, it was like, what's the point of selling it? Might as well just hold it, see what happens 50 years from now. But kind of a good lesson, and it was the one and only penny stock I've ever kind of ventured down. When I initially started kind of taking an interest in the markets, my roommate got me into a Scott Trade account, and we were kind of trying to follow this like, Jim Cramer, Mad Money, like finding the next McDonald's or whatever. And I don't know how we even like stumbled on this one, but my buddy, he owns like same thing, like 10 or 20,000 shares of this stupid fucking thing. But I'm like, dude, might as well just hold it now. Like, it's a good lesson to never venture down the penny stock lane again. But
Dude, my first venture in penny stock was Sponge Tech. Do you remember that one?
that sounds familiar.
They were it was a straight up scam, but it was probably one of the most brilliant scams. They actually rented advertisements at like Met Stadium, Yankee Stadium, and all that. Like it was one of the most elaborate pump and dump schemes, and I got smoked on it. So yeah, never a penny stock ever again. So, because like, dude, it couldn't have been more legit, but it wasn't.
I'd say I was kind of curious about like the crypto space. That's kind of the question I had, prior to pod was like, dude, like how do you like where do you go to like even do your due diligence on some of these projects? Like
Crypto Market Cap, cryptomarketcap.com.
crypto.
They have everything you need to know about every token that's out there, basically. That is where I do a vast majority of the research. And as we know, in my semi-retirement form of life, I've become a little less risk adverse. I've become more risk averse. Um, I don't go searching for, the moonshot coin. Like I was chatting with our friend Nasty Nate not too long ago, and he was wanting some names, and now he's pulled out Bonk some way, BONK.
Bonk.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like I didn't tell you about that fucking thing, and he's like, I know it's awesome. I was like, all right, you just keep on going with Bonk then, buddy. But there's so many. Like there's limitless amounts of coins out there, tokens out there that
Yeah.
you can be involved in, and it's hard to know what the next meme coin is. I mean, at one point I had a million Doge, right?
Yep.
Sure, I would have loved to held on to that million Doge when it went, but that was pain, right? Like that was so you can get in some of these crazy names. The only name that is speculative that I'm in is Shiba Inu. Really, every other thing that I'm involved with has some form of utility, and it's do you want to invest in HHSE or do you want to invest in Apple, right?
That's
And
totally where I was going with. That's why I was asking, like, and about 99, because like, you know, I'll never forget. I wasn't investing, but I remember my dad, and like I'll never forget him talking about he bought this thing called like Luminon or some shit, and like, of course the thing ripped through the roof. He round tripped it and probably lost money on it, but between like him and then like Dan Zanger's kind of a big like momentum guy I've kind of followed throughout the years, and it feels like the crypto space is kind of in the same or similar type of trading environment as like these things are pumping 100, 200, 300% a day or a week or whatever. How do you know? Is it, I mean, the majority of like these kind of the altcoins, is that what they are? Is just kind of like momentum pump and dumps? Like,
that's what they
okay.
are. That's what they
I
are.
mean,
I mean, look at Bonk. In 2 weeks, it went up 200%, right?
Yeah.
Look at
And
Purple Peppy or Peppy Purple
yeah,
or whatever.
God.
Not Peppy, Purple Peppy or something like that.
but there's unlimited amount of tokens,
Yeah.
and it's if you're trying to be the momentum trader, 990%. Like that's just it's just stupid,
Yeah.
right? And if you're part of that and you captured any of that upside, congratulations. Like I'm not mad at you. I just don't have the time to sit here and babysit. It's like babysitting zero DTE options, right? Like
Yeah.
you got to be smart. And I mean, people who bought up here and saw this do that, right? Like they weren't feeling great yesterday or today, rather.
I was gonna say Solana is like my probably favorite out there right now.
So I'll go through my four, right? The crypto charts that I looked at. I don't care about utilities or any of that stuff, but just charts. I went through about, and I'm not a crypto guy. You guys are the crypto people. But I just
Not the
want to go
crypto
through
people.
charts because
Asking you guys.
yeah. So I just go through charts because that's where
Yeah.
my passion lies. And first one obviously is Bitcoin. It is doing all the amazing things that it needs to do. Solana is number two.
Yep.
Yeah.
Solana looks phenomenal,
That's great.
right? Number three is SUI,
Yeah.
SUI, right? And rounding up the top four, and Bags may not like it, but it's Doge.
What about
No,
his
Doge looks good.
Doge looks phenomenal on the monthly. It's cleared all the monthly bars.
I don't.
But Ethereum does not. So here's the question. This is what I wanted to ask you, Ben, and you can continue after.
Okay.
Ethereum does not look good. And a lot of people talk about the fees and the gas fees in Ethereum. Is it possible that Doge becomes the new Ethereum? Not price-wise, but
It's more likely Solana does.
Solana. Okay. Because based on the charts, these are the ones that look phenomenal out of the crypto space,
I
right?
agree.
So
yeah, and just like anything, you want to buy strength, right? Like we're looking at, and Ethereum doesn't look as bad as some things, but it doesn't look as good as other things, right? Especially Bitcoin. And I've used the good old Bitcoin dominance chart in the past. And there we are. And I've used the Ethereum to Bitcoin, right? And there we are, right? Like there is every piece of technical analysis to tell you everything you know that it is not alt season, even though alts are booming in some cases, right? Like I mean, look at the graph right here, GRT. Um, up 10% just today, 11% just today.
XLM too.
Cosmos up 12% just today. You have to pay attention, but when you look at the charts, like that is nowhere near the strength that Solana has, right? Solana, you buy strength. So I'm not investing in, and I've sold many of these coins, and I don't I don't enjoy having to buy Bitcoin up in the 80 and 90,000 range, but it is what it is at the end of the day. You buy where strength is.
Yeah. And that's So to me, Bitcoin.
I love Chainlink. Chainlink is not as strong as other names.
Weren't you in DOT as well? Weren't you in DOT as well?
Yeah. DOT looks like a hot piece of garbage.
Yeah. And this
the main reason why I was in DOT is because they were one of the higher, basically, rewards fees. So you were getting a lot of interest for parking your money and staking it with DOT.
Okay.
But you can't make up 90% fall off, right? Like you can't, I mean, it doesn't matter how much they're paying you to hold it.
Yeah. I go based on charts because I think charts drive a lot of crypto in general. This is not it's a pump and dump scheme on probably 75% of the coins out there. So when I see names like Solana and Sui and Doge, which was the meme coin before, but that strength in Doge is it's impossible not to notice. Can it fail tomorrow? Sure. But on a monthly candle on Doge, if you're looking at it, it has cleared all the levels from 2021 when it spiked up to 76 cents. And it's sitting
HBAR
above
is
that.
going crazy today. Like there's
Yep.
another name, HBAR. That's pretty strong chart.
So when you see strength, what is that telling you? That someone that's smarter than you has figured out that this
Yeah.
is potentially a great investment, right? And so that's why, okay, let me rephrase that. Not smarter than us, has more money to make things happen than us.
Or more information. Like,
Or more
yeah.
information. Yeah.
yeah.
So those are the four charts I'd be focusing on. I don't know if you can add any more to that, Ben. But
Let's say,
Sui, Solana, Doge, and Bitcoin right now. And once Bitcoin starts to top out, which I think is around 119 for me, you should probably see more money flow into altcoins.
Yep. And that's what I plan on doing is taking some of my more recent purchases of Bitcoin and once it get I had 115 as my marker, GP, so I'm glad to hear you have 119.
I posted the chart on StockTwits, but it's also from March on X. But last time when Bitcoin broke out, it got to the 100% extension and kind of stalled for a while, and then eventually got to the 261 extension. So the 100 extension here is 119 for me, based on the same metrics as the last time, and the 261 sits at 203,000, which is probably the top of this cycle at some point.
Basically, what I have is this line connects the tops, right? This pink line at the top right there.
Yeah.
That connects the top range, and we're perilously close to that. But what has happened when we've hit other tops, and this was a top prior, we go about 20-30% higher. So 115 for me is halfway of that.
Yeah.
So I want to be out. And if we come back in and retest around 100, great. And it works, great. But if not, I'm okay with missing out some of the upside to maybe diversify into some of these less loved altcoin names. That's just how I'm playing it. But no, I think Solana is probably the leader in the clubhouse as far as um, who can be the second, who can be silver, right? If Bitcoin's gold, who can be silver? And that would be maybe Solana. It's still Ethereum as far as overall market cap goes, but I don't know. Ethereum just kind of looks like it's stuck in the mud right now.
It's stuck in the mud, and honestly, it looks like there's someone who knows something that this is not going to be the coin of the future, right? And that doesn't mean it needs to collapse all the way down. It just means the projects and all the focus around getting these coins into mainstream, like Bitcoin is getting there, right? It could be potentially less. It could also be because they're launching new ETFs in Ethereum and they're holding the price down so they can accumulate.
Yeah,
Bitcoin.
I kind of feel like that's more the case than the latter, GP. I still think Solana is a very good token, but I'm not ready to throw in the towel on Ethereum yet. Right now, it's still. I mean, looking at the weekly, you're still holding all the moving averages. Monthly, you're above the 9, so it's not like Ethereum is a pile of dog shit like a Polkadot is. But it is underperforming what you'd expect to be a leader, right?
Yeah. You would have expected Ethereum and Bitcoin to be in stair-step fashion. Maybe not as great as Bitcoin because that's the leader, but you would have expected Ethereum to be right on its heels or close to it, right? So we do have some questions in the chat if we want to address them at some point, but
Baba. I mean, I think with the current administration, the China trade is dead. I mean, we remember what it was like during the prior administration with China. And you know that's the whole 2020 collapse, but it was a slog. I mean, look at this. You know, you come back and look at this. I mean, that's not fun to be in. You want to be in that here? I don't. So the China names were names that I was happily getting rid of into any strength last week. So yeah, I don't want to be back in Baba. It's testing the range breakout right here, but yeah, I don't like it.
there are so many names that are working that this makes no sense.
It looks like this. This point in time is that point in time.
I think you just, yeah, I can agree. Set an alert at like 115.
I just wouldn't. Just there's literally thousands of stocks in the market. Just focus on the ones that are working, except the entire China trade. Yes, maybe you miss out on it and it sucks, but literally, if you just bought a firm 3 months ago, you would have tripled your money, right?
Well,
So
Baba just had I mean, China's just coming off a singles day or whatever. Baba just had earnings, and you see where it's at, right?
yeah,
I mean, if it were worth being in, like you would have seen something happen. I just, again, with tariffs, not that tariffs are going to directly affect China, but maybe people stop buying so much things that are made in other places.
yeah, because what this regime is about nationalizing, right? Bringing manufacturing back here. So in a trade that's been garbage for 3 years, could it be the potential bottom? Sure. Maybe opposites attract, and instead of like last presidential term, he falls in love with China and says, "You're my China," right? And um, we go higher. Like it's just there's literally so many other trades. I don't even know why anyone is looking.
I mean, if you're long, Baba has to hold right here. Basically, it has to hold right here and start going up. I know we had, you know, a few weeks back there was that big move up, but it has to hold here. I mean, you can see all the support and resistance along that range box. If it sinks back into the range, it's probably going to go back down and test the lows or lower.
Yeah, yeah. Good luck. OIH is the other one, and it looks good on the monthly, but Trump is pro oil circuit, whatever, but
I think part of the problem is you
commodities.
have Exxon CEO coming out last week and is like, we don't need to drill more.
Yeah.
We have a good equilibrium of supply and demand. We do not need to have more. So I think that's probably a little bit of a red flag. I mean, people don't want to believe it, but we've produced more energy and oil year over year the past 2 years than we ever have before in the history of our country. We are energy independent as far as the amount of oil we're bringing out of the ground. So yeah, let's just bring some more up and drive the prices down. That's what to do, right? Like oversupply the market. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
I don't like commodities at all. There's no rhyme or reason to any of this stuff. So
Nick, are
just
you
stay
going to
away
get you
from.
some gush?
I definitely like, again, like I enjoy the back and forth with Duzio and MBG, but like I'm a chart guy like GP. Like I just happen to see XOM probably differently than he does. Like I think the chart, it's kind of like the same conversation we were having about gold. Like it's in a fucking range. And there's other energy names that are working, like LNG and some of the alternative energy the other alternative names in the other names in alternative energy space that are working and setting up like IREN, NNE, all the nuclear names, the stuff that continues to work. But again, like I like the XOM chart. It's just unless you're looking to accumulate versus the lows of the range, and like you have this massively bull XOM thesis or theory, then like just set your fucking alert at 125 and then start paying attention when it's like getting near to like actually break out. Otherwise, you're just going to get chopped to pieces as it
I
moves
mean,
up.
our question was for OIH. I just don't see anything there that makes it look like a great setup.
It looks distributive, right? These are it looks
Yeah.
like a distribution pattern. But just one more thing. MBG doesn't own a single penny of XLE. He just likes to shitpost.
I mean, I think it's hilarious.
Yeah. But I just don't want any part of this. The same way I don't want any part of gold. Even though gold was the called short a couple of weeks ago and it played out pretty well. I called it and they heard me, so they took it to all-time highs and then crushed it the next week. So I don't like commodities.
Dude,
They,
this strength and square right now is on fucking real.
dude, it's fintech in general. Look at Dave. Look at Dave. Look at Dave.
Shit, you could probably buy that right now.
Dave is just breaking out here, right? And it's retesting the pivot at 75, 76 since the earnings candle. This is a monster accumulative pattern here, right? So can they all fail? Sure. That's always the caveat in any of these conversations. But fintech in general is on fire.
Yeah.
SOFI, Affirm, Upstart.
Like all the crypto stuff plays a role in that. So that's why I don't know.
Yeah, it does, but they haven't gotten the valuation that Bitcoin going up has given other stocks, right? Like I think Square still owns Bitcoin and it couldn't even be bothered doing anything for the last 6 months, right? So
But MSTR
Monster. Like what a gift that was last week. Holy
dude,
shit.
What a gift September was when it was sitting there at 140 and everyone's like, oh, like just it was 6 inside months at a pivot. It is 6 inside months at a pivot. Like that was one of the easiest charts to chart, even if you did not know what you were doing. You have 6 inside months sitting above the pivot and wicking off the pivot. I'm not saying it's going to work, but you had a very defined risk reward strategy there that would have netted you what 270 points or so, 200, and even if you took it against 200, it would have netted you 170 points.
All right, gents, we got less than 2 minutes. Nick wants to know about FSLR. I mean, I love the company. It's not my favorite setup, GP. Nick,
I love the setup here. So
I kind of do too.
All right. So
can I share a chart?
Me.
No. So it's a shit chart daily. Don't get me wrong. We are bottom fishing in this conversation. So the chances of failure on FSLR are as likely on other shit charts. I'm not saying that it's not, but where I like it from a risk to reward perspective is against that 195. I can share a chart that I shared with my group over the weekend if you guys want to see.
We'd love for you to share.
Sure.
I just think the squeeze potential is there.
You want to share it now, or are you going to share it on Stock Twitter?
I'm going to share it right now.
All right. Let me turn mine off. Now you go.
So can you guys see that?
Yep.
Okay. So this is FSLR when it was in the 60s on the left-hand side on the chart. Is it large enough? I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, I can see it.
All right. So you see the up channel that formed on FSLR and then had the breakdown and then kind of the secondary top, the hit, and then nonstop breakdown. you're at this pivot of like the 194 area where it was kind of rejecting the last time, and now it's finding support. You're seeing wicks here. So the trigger here would be 195. I like it. I like the opportunity of the squeeze. I think the elections trade is overdone as always with every side of things. I like how it's basing. Is it going to happen this week, next week, 2 weeks from now? I don't know. But as long as it keeps wicking off of that one, right below that 195, I like what it's setting up here. And when it does, the last time it went from 60 to 280, right? So, or 67, I think it was, to like 280. So if this works out in terms, and it's not expensive by any means, right? Like fundamentally. Um, so from a fundamental perspective, I like it. And from a chart perspective, you have a similar kind of setup looking for potential 3-4x from here, right? And I talked about this chart, I think about 6 months ago. It's like, will you be comfortable holding FSLR if it tags 1,000 in the next 12 months or 18 months through all the gyrations, right? I didn't get a lot of answers, but that's the question that I posed, right? Is like, okay, it's been struggling, it's had a monster move, so it's got to consolidate and for the next leg to happen. And so I'm in the camp that it's consolidating for the next leg to happen. And the next leg out of this is, I think on my fibs chart is around 1,100 or 1,000. So I'm not saying that's tomorrow. I'm not saying that's next quarter. I'm saying the move here. So I like it, and this is what I shared.
Well, we're at time. I gotta run. But I appreciate you guys. I appreciate everybody tuning in and the questions. Joe G, ET, I don't know. I've never liked ET. I pulled up the chart. Not necessarily my shtick, but it looks better than some of the stuff out there. Anyway, but hey guys, let's do it again next week.
See ya.